Day 39 in a third world prison. It is evening time and I'm journaling. I write, I'm living in a nightmare. I'm reading a modern novel about a 38-year-old who is divorced with two kids. The ex husband joined a dating site shortly after he separates from his ex wife. 18 months after the divorce, he has a 26-year-old girlfriend that has moved in and is staying at the house when the two children, one who's 10 years old, the other one who's 12 years old, comes to stay over the weekend with the father. The 26-year-old and the ex husband are not married. Again, they've only been dating 18 months. And in the novel, they talk about how the 10-year-old boy is starting to wet the bed. This novel is insane because they're making it seem as though this is normal and this is just the process. This novel is very triggering and it brings me back to when my daughter was about 4 months old and the abuser was talking to a mediator. And at this point, there had been a domestic violence restraining order against him for false imprisonment, physical assault, physical abuse, as well as financial abuse and coercive control. So I had a restraining order against this man. He tells the mediator that he wants a 3 month old. He wants the baby flown to him on the East Coast. My daughter and I are living in Sacramento. And he wants 50-50 custody with a 3 month old. Despite the fact that, again, we're dealing with a newborn, I'm breastfeeding her, and it's not age appropriate. And what killed me was the family court judge that I was sitting in front of, who, number one, is a female, and number two, is a self-proclaimed domestic violence advocate, who basically is just blatantly enabling him from the very start. So this judge, this family court judge that we were sitting before, female, claims to be a domestic violence advocate. That's the ticket she ran on when she got elected. Knows that there is a domestic violence restraining order history, a history of domestic violence restraining order that she promptly dismissed without there being a trial, and saw the video, saw the pictures, was informed that there were videos, and saw the detailed history of 3 years of domestic violence that wasn't short of falling under all categories: stalking, technological abuse, or stalking, imprisonment in the household, physical abuse, sexual assault, the whole nine. Like, it's not there. There isn't. There's definitely no question. Like, there's definitely this. There's domestic violence going on. Regardless of all this, this woman, at the very first court hearing, at a very loud voice, weirdly with her nose stuck up in the air. It was the weirdest thing. She does this. I believe that it is a tragedy that the child is not on the East Coast with the father. A 3 month old newborn that's being breastfed? I'm sorry, what? I mean, when I heard her say that, I just thought to myself, where am I? What's going on? Is this a practical joke? What person in their right mind makes a statement like that? Number one, that's not your job. Your job is to uphold the law. And the law is that I, the sole legal parent and the unmarried mother, was residing in California and gave birth to my baby in California. Legally, my child should be in California. Legally and ethically, a newborn breastfed baby needs to be at home with her mother, especially a healthy, safe, educated mother like myself. Anyway, sorry. So basically, I just couldn't believe my ears because I was like, I'm sorry, what is going on? What does this have to do with the law? Like, this sounds like a personal opinion that is quite disturbing, to say the least, coming from a woman of all people. And I just quickly started recognizing that this is a woman who is dead set on taking custody away from me. And how is this legal? And how is this not blatant child abuse? When it's documented and there is evidence that this person is an abuser that I just reported, that again, I'm an unmarried mother. Have you even confirmed if he is the legal parent? And so, a child being in a home, a young child being with their mother, and the other person, once determined if they're the legal parent, getting visitation until the child becomes of age that it is time for them to distance themselves from their home and to have visitation, not bouncing them around like a ping pong and property, but being moral, being ethical, and really truly being concerned about the well-being of a child versus treating her like a piece of property or some kind of pawn. And it brought me back to what I know about the United States of America. Historically, the United States of America has abused our babies. They abused children historically, dating back to, slavery, the transatlantic slave trade. These children in slavery, I mean, the stories are horrible. In the South, they would use little black babies as bait for alligators. Like, they would put string around a baby and put them in the water to egg crocodiles to come out of the water. And yes, crocodiles would eat babies alive, little black babies. They used to use children, young children, in medical experiments. In medical schools in the South, they would take young children and use them as guinea pigs to experiment on them and to practice medicine on them. And then let's talk about the indigenous communities. It was blatantly spoken that the government took children, thousands of children as young as 3-4 years old, away from their mothers, away from their families, thousands of miles away into boarding schools that it was unsanitary conditions. They were blatantly, physically, sexually abusing these children. They have found mass unmarked graves of innocent indigenous children on the grounds of these boarding schools in Canada and in North America. Let's talk about the botany doctor. In the 1930s, 1940s, he would drive around with a pitchfork. He designed this steel stake, and he would go into the eye, and he found a hole in the skull and would take a hammer and knock it into the brain. And it was supposed to be a cure for ADHD and for children that were misbehaving. And he is known for driving into psych wards, and they would line innocent people up, and he would knock a steel stake into children's brains and scramble their brains. Let's not forget about the foster care system. Those trains that they used to have back in the day. In the late 1800s, they would put orphan children on trains and take the trains out to the West Coast from the East Coast and pass them out to people, and they would be used as labor. And then Child Protection Services today is notorious for unethically taking children away from their homes and putting them in foster homes that don't give 2 cents about these children because they're making money. And then let's not go into the child trafficking that's currently going on right now. Taking a baby from a mother is tragic, and it